Dad! Old liars are always dramatic. It's nothing serious, my daughter Bethany yelled as I clutched my chest in pain, feeling my heart tear itself apart. I had to call the ambulance myself while she kept watching television, indifferent to my agony. What she didn't know was that her cruel indifference had just cost her a $2 million inheritance. Before we continue, subscribe to William's Revenge Stories. Hit the notification bell because we have new stories every day. Leave a like, and tell us in the comments what city you're watching from. My name is Edward Miller. I'm 72 years old, and for 45 years, I built a chain of 7 hotels across the country from the ground up. I never thought the day would come when my own daughter, my Bethany, would deny me help when I needed it most. But on that Tuesday, February 28th, 2024, my world collapsed in the cruelest way imaginable. It was about 8:30 at night when I felt the first sharp pain in my chest. I was in my study, reviewing some investment documents, when an intense pain shot through me like a lightning bolt. It wasn't the first time I'd felt discomfort. At my age, the body isn't the same, but this time was different. This pain was like someone squeezing my heart with an iron fist. "Bethany," I shouted from my study, trying to stay calm. My daughter was in the living room as usual, glued to that damn television that seemed to hypnotize her every night. "Bethany, I need your help, please." The pain intensified. It felt like my left arm was about to detach from my body. Sweat started pouring from my forehead as I held onto the desk to keep from falling. I had read enough about heart attacks to recognize the symptoms, and they were all there. The crushing pain in the chest, the radiation down my arm, the feeling of impending doom. "What do you want now, Dad?" she answered with that dismissive tone she had adopted in recent months. She didn't even bother to come see me. Her voice came from the living room, cold and distant, as if speaking to me was a chore. I think I'm having a heart attack," I managed to say, my voice trembling from the effort. "I need you to take me to the hospital immediately." What I heard next hurt me more than the heart attack itself. Bethany let out a sarcastic laugh, a laugh I had never heard from my little girl's lips, my girl who used to run to hug me every time I came home from work. "Oh, Dad, old liars are always dramatic. Every week it's something different with you. Last week it was your blood pressure. Before that it was your stomach. Now it's your heart. It's nothing serious. You probably just ate something that didn't agree with you." Her words hit me like daggers. An old liar. That's how my own daughter saw me. The woman I had raised with so much love, to whom I had given everything she asked for, really thought I was a manipulative liar. "Bethany, please, this is serious," I insisted, now finding it harder to breathe. "The pain is unbearable. I feel like I'm going to die. Enough already. I'm watching my favorite show. If it hurts so much, take an aspirin and leave me alone. It's always the same with you, Dad. Drama, drama, and more drama to get attention." I was paralyzed, not by the physical pain, but by the absolute cruelty of her words. This wasn't my Bethany. My daughter would never have spoken to me like that. What had happened to the loving child who used to call me her hero? Where was the young woman who would cry when I had a simple cold? The pain in my chest became unbearable. I knew I had to act fast. With trembling hands, I grabbed my cell phone and dialed 911. 911. "What's your emergency?" "My name is Edward Miller. I'm having a heart attack. I live at 345 North Clark Street, apartment 7 Amperes. Please, come quickly. Mr. Miller, stay calm. An ambulance is on its way. Is there anyone with you?" I looked toward the living room, where I could perfectly hear the sound of the TV and the canned laughter of some show. My daughter was there, less than 30 feet away, but I had never felt more alone in my life. "Yes," I answered bitterly. "My daughter is here, but apparently I'm exaggerating." While I waited for the ambulance, the pain didn't let up. I sat in my leather armchair, the same one where I used to read stories to Bethany when she was little, and wondered how we had gotten to this point. At what moment did I lose my daughter? When did she become this cold, unfeeling woman who preferred her television show over her father's life? The paramedics arrived 25 minutes later. When the doorbell rang, Bethany finally got up from the sofa, but not to help me, but to open the door with an annoyed look on her face. "You're the ones from the ambulance. My dad thinks he's having a heart attack, but it's probably just indigestion. Old people always exaggerate everything." Even in front of medical professionals, my daughter continued to discredit me. The paramedics, 2 young and professional men, examined me quickly. "Mr. Miller, you are indeed having a heart attack. We need to get you to the hospital immediately. Time is critical." Bethany's face went pale, but not with worry, but with shame, as she realized the paramedics had heard her dismissive comments. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, I heard one of the paramedics ask her, "Are you going to accompany your father to the hospital?" Yes, of course." "I'll get my keys," she stammered, but I knew she was only doing it to save face in front of strangers. In that moment, as they carried me to the ambulance, I made a decision that would change our lives forever. My daughter had just shown her true colors, and I was never going to forget it. The ambulance ride to Lakeside University Hospital was an endless agony. The paramedics worked on me as the sirens pierced the Chicago night. Michael, the more experienced paramedic, gave me oxygen while constantly monitoring my vital signs. "Mr. Miller, stay with me. Talk to me. Are you feeling any better with the medication?" The nitroglycerin under my tongue had partially eased the chest pain, but my mind couldn't stop processing what had happened. 2 hours. Exactly 2 hours had passed from the first symptoms until I finally received professional medical care. 2 crucial hours that could have been the difference between life and death. Bethany was following the ambulance in her car. Through the back window, I could see her headlights keeping a safe distance. She was probably thinking about how to explain to her friends that her father had suffered a real cardiac event, not the senile exaggeration she had so cruelly dismissed. When we arrived at the ER, the medical protocol was activated immediately. Dr. Alan Reed, the cardiologist on duty, met me with his team. He was a man of about 45, bald, with metal-rimmed glasses and a serious expression that reflected years of experience treating cardiovascular emergencies. "Mr. Miller, I'm Dr. Reed. We're going to perform an EKG and run blood tests immediately. Based on your symptoms and the time elapsed, we suspect an acute myocardial infarction." The next few hours were a whirlwind of medical tests, injections, and monitors connected to my body. The EKG confirmed what we already knew. I had suffered a major heart attack. The troponin levels in my blood were sky high, indicating significant damage to the heart muscle. "We need to perform an emergency angioplasty," Dr. Reed explained. "A coronary artery is completely blocked. The procedure involves inserting a catheter to unblock the vessel and place a stent." Bethany had arrived at the hospital and was in the waiting room. Occasionally, I saw her through the glass door, pacing nervously and talking on the phone, probably contacting Robert, her husband, to update him. What hurt the most was watching her behavior. She didn't show the genuine anguish of a worried daughter, but the inconvenience of someone forced to deal with an unexpected situation. During the angioplasty, I remained conscious under local anesthesia. I could watch on the monitor as the dye revealed my coronary arteries. The image was shocking. The anterior descending artery was completely blocked, which explained the intensity of the pain I had experienced. "Mr. Miller, you can see the blockage here, doctor," Reed explained, pointing to the screen. "Fortunately, we've managed to reopen the artery and restore blood flow. However, I have to be frank with you. The 2-hour delay in receiving care has caused irreversible damage to a portion of your heart muscle." His words echoed in my mind like hammer blows. Irreversible damage. A 2-hour delay. If Bethany had acted immediately when I asked for help, if she had shown a minimum of concern, the consequences would have been considerably less severe. "Doctor, what exactly does that irreversible damage mean?" "It means that an area of your heart has died due to lack of oxygen. Your heart function will be permanently compromised. We estimate you've lost about 20% of your left ventricle's pumping capacity." 20%. A fifth of my heart had died while my daughter watched TV, thinking my pleas for help were just the exaggerations of a manipulative old man. That night, in the coronary care unit, I thought deeply about the last 8 months. When exactly had this radical change in Bethany begun? I remembered the moment vividly. It was in June 2023, during a family dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant downtown, when she introduced me to her new friend, Monica Pierce. Monica was a 8-year-old divorced woman with a magnetic but venomous personality. She had introduced herself as an independent business consultant, though I soon discovered she had bankrupted her own digital marketing company due to bad financial decisions and excessive debt. Since that introduction, I noticed subtle but constant changes in Bethany's behavior. Her visits became less frequent. Our conversations turned superficial and tense. She began to question the decisions I made about my properties and investments, suggesting I needed more independence and that older parents sometimes make irrational choices. Monica's ideas were systematically infiltrating my daughter's mind. During Sunday lunches, Bethany started repeating phrases that were clearly not her own. Parents shouldn't be an emotional burden on their adult children, or, "It's important to set clear boundaries with older generations." Monica had achieved something I never thought possible. She had turned my own daughter against me. She had manipulated her mind with ideas of emotional independence and financial freedom, painting me as an obstacle to her personal growth. In the early hours of March 1st, as the heart monitors beeped steadily, I made a fundamental decision. I could not let this betrayal go without consequences. My daughter had shown her true nature at the most critical moment of my life, and I was not going to forget it. As a successful businessman, I had learned that the most important decisions require detailed analysis and careful strategy. During the 45 years I spent building my hotel empire, I faced ruthless competitors, disloyal partners, and devastating economic crises. I always came out on top because I never acted impulsively. This situation required the same meticulous approach. Bethany had played her cards, revealing that her main interest in our relationship was financial. Now it was my turn to play mine, and I had a considerable advantage. She had no idea of the true extent of my wealth or the protective measures I had put in place over the years. Dr. Reed returned in the early morning hours to check on my post-operative progress. "Mr. Miller, your recovery is progressing satisfactorily. However, I must stress the importance of the time lost. 2 additional hours of myocardial ischemia have significantly compromised your long-term prognosis. Doctor, I fully understand the medical implications, but let me ask you something from your professional experience. Is it common for family members to ignore such obvious symptoms of a heart attack, doctor?" Reed looked at me with curiosity, probably sensing that my question had deeper motives than simple medical curiosity. "Mr. Miller, in my 22 years of practice, I've seen all kinds of family reactions. Some people panic at minor symptoms, while others downplay real emergencies. However, I must admit that your daughter's reaction was unusually indifferent for the gravity of the situation." His words confirmed what I already knew. Bethany's behavior hadn't been a simple misunderstanding or a mistaken judgment. It had been a cruel demonstration of calculated indifference to my well-being. That morning, as I watched the Chicago sun rise through my hospital room window, I began to plan my response. Bethany thought she had won, that her cruelty had gone unnoticed. She had no idea she had just awakened the strategist dormant within me. The next 3 days in the hospital gave me something invaluable: time to reflect and remember. While my heart physically recovered from the attack, my mind worked tirelessly, reconstructing the last 8 months, searching for the clues I had ignored about Bethany's transformation. The first alarm bell had rung in July 2023, just a month after she met Monica. Bethany came to my house for our traditional Sunday lunch, but something in her attitude had radically changed. Instead of her usual warm hug, she greeted me with a formal kiss on the cheek and kept her distance throughout the visit. "Dad, I've been thinking that maybe you should consider living in a retirement community," she told me as she carved the pot roast that Maria, my housekeeper, had prepared so carefully. Her words caught me completely by surprise. I was 71, in excellent health, managed my finances perfectly, and kept my home in impeccable condition. Where did this absurd suggestion come from? "Bethany, I don't understand your concern. I'm perfectly fine and I greatly enjoy my independence. It's just that Monica told me about her father, who lived alone until he had a terrible accident at home. She says that responsible children should anticipate these situations before it's too late." There it was, Monica Pierce's influence seeping into our family conversations. My daughter was repeating arguments that clearly didn't come from her own thoughts, but from the manipulations of her new mentor. During August, the suggestions became more insistent and specific. Bethany began to systematically question my abilities. If I forgot a minor detail during our talks, she interpreted it as a sign of cognitive decline. If I was slow to answer phone calls because I was busy, she saw it as evidence of dangerous social isolation. "Dad, Monica knows an excellent facility in Rosemont. It has beautiful gardens and very stimulating recreational activities for people your age. You could make new friends and have constant company." The insistence was so persistent that I began to suspect ulterior motives. One afternoon in September, while reviewing documents in my study, I decided to discreetly investigate this Monica Pierce who held such sway over my daughter. Through my contacts in the Chicago business community, I discovered revealing information. Monica had owned a marketing agency, MP Digital Strategies, which went bankrupt in 2022 due to reckless investments in cryptocurrency and unpaid bank loans. She had accumulated debts of over $80,000 and was involved in several lawsuits with former clients and suppliers. But the most disturbing thing was her personal history. During her marriage to a prosperous architect, Monica had systematically manipulated the relationship between her husband and his elderly mother. She convinced her husband that his mother was a toxic emotional burden and managed to get her placed in a nursing home against her will. The old woman died 6 months later, completely isolated from her family. This pattern of behavior was chilling. Monica specialized in identifying families with considerable wealth and manipulating potential heirs to accelerate inheritance processes or access the financial resources of vulnerable seniors. In October, Bethany intensified her attacks on my autonomy. During a dinner at a fancy restaurant, she surprised me with a proposal that confirmed my worst fears. "Dad, Monica and I have been researching safer investment options for your money. She has experience in financial management and could help you optimize your investment portfolio." The audacity of the proposal left me speechless. This bankrupt woman, with a history of business failures and family manipulation, intended to access my wealth under the guise of professional advice. "Bethany, I appreciate your concern, but my current financial advisors have proven their excellent competence for decades. I don't need to make any changes in that regard." "But Dad, they're so traditional. Monica uses modern strategies, international diversification, opportunities that your conservative advisors would never consider." The conversation grew tense when I flatly refused. For the first time in my life, I saw flashes of genuine anger in Bethany's eyes. It wasn't a daughter's frustration at my supposed stubbornness, but real anger because her plans to access my fortune had been blocked. November brought the most revealing episode. Bethany showed up at my house with Monica, unannounced, while I was reviewing financial statements in my study. The intrusion was so brazen that Maria, my housekeeper, felt uncomfortable and asked if she should clear the documents from the table. "Dad, I wanted Monica to see the house. It's so big and beautiful, but really too spacious for one person." Monica walked through my home with calculating eyes, assessing every detail like a professional appraiser. She noted the original paintings, the antique furniture, the baccarat crystal I had collected for years. Her gaze lingered particularly on the Louis X15 desk where I kept some financial documents. "Mr. Miller, Bethany has told me about your impressive business career. It must be tremendously satisfying to have built such a solid legacy," she said with a calculated smile. "Indeed, 45 years of hard work have paid off," I replied dryly, keeping an emotional distance. "It's admirable. Although I imagine that managing such a volume of investments must be exhausting at your age. Bethany was telling me she's been worried lately about the burden of responsibility you handle all alone." The conversation confirmed my suspicions. Monica was gathering information about my financial assets, using Bethany as an intermediary to access confidential details about my wealth. December was the month of the final emotional break. During Christmas dinner, traditionally held in my main dining room with the Ladro porcelain that belonged to my late wife, Bethany made a statement that shattered the last vestiges of my paternal trust. "Dad, Monica and I have decided to form an investment partnership. She'll contribute her professional experience, and I'll provide the initial capital. We thought it would be an excellent opportunity for you to participate as a founding partner." The proposal was so shameless that I couldn't contain my outrage. My own daughter, manipulated by a professional scammer, intended to involve me in a financial scheme designed to access my fortune. "Bethany, that woman is a bankrupt with a history of business failures. I'm not going to risk a single penny on her fantasy projects. You can't talk about Monica like that. She's my friend and a very capable professional. You're just prejudiced against successful businesswomen." That night, lying in the marital bed where I had shared 38 years of happiness with Hope, my late wife, I cried for the first time since her funeral. My daughter had been completely corrupted. The little girl who used to curl up with me to listen to stories had transformed into a cruel and greedy stranger. January and February of 2024 were months of progressive estrangement. Bethany's visits dwindled to sporadic phone calls, always with an undercurrent of financial demands disguised as investment opportunities or wellness suggestions. Now, from my hospital bed, I understood the master plan perfectly. Monica had identified Bethany as the ideal target, the heiress to a considerable fortune, an influenceable personality, a close relationship with her wealthy father. She had worked systematically for 8 months to alienate our relationship and position my daughter as an intermediary to access my wealth. The heart attack had been the ultimate test. When I most needed my daughter's unconditional support, she chose the cruel indifference dictated by her manipulative mentor. She had proven that I only represented financial value, not emotional value. That afternoon of March 4th, As I watched the gray clouds over Chicago from my hospital room window, I made an irrevocable decision. Bethany had chosen her side, and now she was about to discover the consequences of that betrayal. On the 5th day of my hospitalization, I was discharged with a long list of recommendations and medications. Dr. Reed personally handed me the report on my heart condition, along with detailed instructions for my recovery at home. Mr. Miller, your heart will need at least 6 months to fully adapt to the after effects of the heart attack. Avoid high-stress situations, maintain a low-sodium diet, and get moderate exercise according to the guidelines I've provided. During the taxi ride home, I feigned physical weakness while my mind worked feverishly, developing a comprehensive strategy. As an experienced entrepreneur, I knew that information was power, and I needed to know Bethany's exact financial situation before launching any counterattack. That same afternoon, I discreetly contacted Vincent Morris, a private investigator I had used in the past to check the backgrounds of potential business partners. Vincent was a former police commissioner with 30 years of experience and valuable connections in Chicago's financial institutions. Edward, I'm very sorry to hear about your medical situation. How can I help you? Vincent, I need a complete, confidential investigation into the current economic situation of my daughter, Bethany Miller, and her relationship with a woman named Monica Pierce. I want to know about debts, income, recent bank movements, and any relevant information about their personal finances. I understand perfectly. I'll provide you with a comprehensive report within a week. While I awaited the results of the investigation, I spent time meticulously reviewing my own assets. Over 45 years of business success, I had accumulated considerable assets, strategically distributed to optimize tax benefits and minimize financial risks. My investment portfolio included the chain of 7 hotels valued at $4 million, my primary residence in Lincoln Park, appraised at $600,000, a vacation condo in Florida for $200,000, diversified stocks worth $400,000, government bonds for $300,000, and savings accounts with $200,000 immediately available. My total net worth was approximately $2.9 million, a considerable fortune that I had planned to leave entirely to Bethany. However, circumstances had changed radically. A week later, Vincent personally delivered the investigation report to my study. The results were even more revealing than I had anticipated. Edward, your daughter is in a precarious financial situation. She has accumulated debts of $62,000 spread across 5 different credit cards. The monthly interest exceeds $900, and she has refinanced multiple times over the past year. Vincent continued to explain the most disturbing details. Bethany had applied for 3 personal loans from different banks, using her future inheritance as collateral. The contracts clearly specified that she expected to receive at least $2 million upon my death. Furthermore, Edward, I've uncovered communications between your daughter and Monica Pierce, where they explicitly discuss strategies to accelerate her access to the family inheritance. Monica has suggested legal options to have you declared mentally incompetent and assume administration of your assets. The information hit me like a hammer. My own daughter had not only planned to force me into a nursing home, but had also considered having me legally declared incompetent to seize my assets while I was still alive. Vincent, do you have documentary evidence of these conversations? I have legally obtained audio recordings and screenshots of messages exchanged through messaging apps, all perfectly admissible in legal proceedings. That night, locked in my personal library surrounded by volumes of business strategy that had guided me through decades of commercial success, I designed a meticulous response plan. If Bethany wanted to play the game of greed and manipulation, she would discover that her father had been a master of those arts long before she was born. The first step was to completely reorganize the legal structure of my assets. I contacted Ivan Taylor, my trusted lawyer of 25 years, to schedule an urgent meeting at his office on Michigan Avenue. Ivan, I need to implement substantial changes to my will and the ownership structure of my assets. The family situation has evolved unexpectedly. During our meeting on March 14th, I explained in detail Bethany's betrayal and my intentions for a legal response. Ivan, a meticulous and experienced estate lawyer, immediately understood the implications and needs of my situation. Edward, I can structure a series of modifications that will completely protect your interests and allow you to maintain absolute control over your estate decisions. However, I must warn you that these changes will be irreversible once implemented. Even, My daughter showed her true nature when she refused to help me during my heart attack. There is no reconciliation possible after that betrayal. We spent 3 full hours designing a comprehensive legal strategy. Ivan proposed creating a private, charitable foundation that would manage the majority of my assets, appointing me as lifetime president with absolute decision-making powers. This structure would prevent any inheritance claims from Bethany and allow me to completely control the destiny of my fortune. Additionally, Edward, I recommend formally transferring ownership of your hotels to the foundation, while you retain lifetime rights to their use and income. This will generate considerable tax benefits and completely shield the assets from future family claims. The plan was perfect. Bethany had based her strategy on the expectation of automatically inheriting my fortune. She had never considered that I could legally and completely reorganize my estate to exclude her permanently. Over the next few days, while feigning post-heart attack weakness, I worked discreetly with Ivan, implementing all the legal modifications. We transferred the ownership of the hotels to the Hope Miller Foundation, named in honor of my late wife, restructured the financial investments, and created entirely new bank accounts, inaccessible to any family member. The process required multiple visits to notaries, banks, and government offices. To avoid suspicion, I scheduled all these appointments during hours when Bethany usually worked or met with Monica, ensuring I maintained absolute confidentiality about my activities. On March 28th, exactly 1 month after my heart attack, Ivan confirmed that all the estate modifications had been completed and officially registered. Edward, legally your assets now belong to the charitable foundation that you preside over. Your daughter has no inheritance rights to any of the transferred assets. However, you maintain absolute control over all the foundation's decisions. That afternoon, sitting in my leather armchair watching the Chicago sunset, I smiled for the first time in weeks. Bethany believed she had won the game by manipulating me and emotionally distancing me from her life. She had no idea that she had just lost $2.9 million because of her cruelty during my heart attack. Now came the most delicious phase of my plan, letting Bethany believe she had completely triumphed, while I prepared the revelation that would destroy her dreams of inherited wealth forever. The first phase of my strategy began on April 2nd with a seemingly innocent phone call to Bethany. I had waited an additional 2 weeks for her to feel completely secure in her dominant position in our deteriorating relationship. "Bethany, my dear, I need to ask you a very important favor," I said in a deliberately shaky and frail voice. "What do you need, Dad?" she replied, with that barely concealed tone of annoyance she had adopted since her transformation under Monica's influence. "Since the heart attack, I feel very confused with all these bank papers and financial documents. The numbers get jumbled, and I'm afraid I'm making serious mistakes with my accounts." I could sense the immediate shift in her tone. The possibility of legally accessing my finances had instantly piqued her greedy interest. "Dad, don't worry. I can help you with that. It's completely normal to feel insecure with complicated things after such a traumatic medical event. Could you come over tomorrow afternoon? I have all the documents organized in my study, but I need someone I trust to help me review them." "Of course, Dad. I'll be there after lunch." I hung up the phone, smiling. The bait had been cast, and Bethany had bitten exactly as I had anticipated. Her greed was so predictable that manipulating her was almost insultingly easy. That night, I spent several hours meticulously setting the stage for her visit. On my desk, I carefully arranged fake bank documents that Ivan, my lawyer, had helped me create. These papers showed accounts with minimal balances and confusing financial movements that suggested mismanagement on my part. At the same time, I hid all the real documents related to the Hope Miller Foundation and the new offshore accounts where I had transferred my actual wealth. The fake documents indicated that my total assets did not exceed $50,000, a ridiculously low figure compared to my real fortune. Bethany arrived promptly at 3 p.m. on April 3rd, surprisingly accompanied by Monica Pierce. The presence of this woman confirmed my suspicions. My daughter no longer made important decisions without consulting her manipulative mentor. "Dad, I hope you don't mind that I brought Monica. She has a lot of experience with financial matters, and I thought she could help us better organize your accounts." "No problem, dear. Any help is welcome," I replied, feigning gratitude while internally celebrating that both women were present to witness my performance. For the next 2 hours, I masterfully played the role of a confused and vulnerable old man. I pretended to have trouble remembering account numbers, showed insecurity when signing documents, and expressed constant concern about my ability to handle complex financial matters. "I don't understand why these numbers don't add up," I muttered. pointing to the falsified account statements. I used to be able to manage millions of dollars without any problem, but now even simple accounts are incomprehensible to me. Monica leaned over the documents, her eyes shining with ambition. Her experience as a scammer allowed her to immediately identify the supposed financial vulnerabilities I had carefully simulated. Mr. Miller, these documents indicate some disorganization in your finances. Bethany and I could help you consolidate your accounts and simplify the management of your resources. Would you really do that for me? I asked with feigned gratitude, watching as the two women exchanged complicit glances. Bethany took the lead with a proposal that fully revealed her true intentions. Dad, we could set up a joint account where I have authorization to carry out transactions on your behalf. That way, you wouldn't have to worry about complicated procedures. That's an excellent idea, Monica added immediately. I know of similar cases where children manage their parents' finances to avoid confusion and costly mistakes. The audacity of their proposal impressed me. They were suggesting I voluntarily hand over control of my supposed assets, convinced that my post-heart attack mental decline had made them the beneficiaries of my apparent vulnerability. That seems like a very sensible solution, I replied after pretending to think deeply. But I need to be sure you fully understand my current finances before making such an important decision. Over the next hour, I explained in detail the false financial situation I had constructed. I showed them documents indicating significant losses in recent investments, problems with the hotels due to tourism competition, and difficulties in maintaining my usual standard of living. As you can see, my net worth has been considerably reduced. The hotels are barely generating enough profit to cover operating expenses, and my personal savings are practically depleted. Monica examined each document with a worried expression, mentally calculating how much money they could extract from my supposed deteriorating financial situation. Mr. Miller, although your current resources are limited, professional management could significantly optimize your income. Bethany and I could implement financial recovery strategies. Bethany was enthusiastic, clearly convinced they had identified an opportunity for quick enrichment by manipulating my supposedly diminished finances. Dad, let us help you. Monica has contacts at financial institutions that could offer you more profitable investment products than your traditional accounts. By the end of the afternoon, we had established the terms of their financial assistance. Bethany would have full access to the fake accounts I had prepared, with authorization to carry out any operation she deemed beneficial to my interests. We'll go to the bank tomorrow to formalize the necessary changes, Bethany declared with evident satisfaction. Perfect, dear. I completely trust your judgment and Monica's expertise. After they left, I sat in my library, contemplating the brilliance of my strategy. Bethany believed she had gained access to my wealth, when in reality she had only gotten the responsibility of managing empty accounts with fabricated documentation. The real accounts, holding my true assets worth nearly $3 million, remained completely hidden and inaccessible within the legal structure of the Hope Miller Foundation. Over the next few days, I watched with amusement as Bethany gradually took over the administration of my fictitious finances. She visited banks, consulted with supposed financial advisors, and spent hours analyzing documents that had no value whatsoever. The trap was perfectly set. Very soon, Bethany would discover that she had dedicated considerable time and effort to managing absolute nothingness, while my real fortune remained completely out of her reach. The moment of revelation was approaching, and I savored in advance the look of utter shock that would light up her face when she understood the magnitude of her miscalculation. A week after handing over control of my supposed finances to Bethany, I received the phone call I had been anxiously awaiting. Her voice sounded distressed, with a hint of panic she barely tried to conceal. Dad, I need to see you urgently. I've been reviewing your accounts, and there are some very complicated situations we need to discuss immediately. Complicated situations? What kind of problems have you found, dear? I'd rather explain in person. I'll be there in an hour. I hung up the phone, smiling with satisfaction. My performance had been so convincing that Bethany truly believed she was facing a family financial crisis. The reality of the empty accounts had begun to dawn on her, and her desperation was exactly what I had planned to provoke. During that hour of waiting, I prepared for the second phase of my act. I arranged my study to look like the workspace of an elderly man genuinely confused by complex economic matters. I scattered documents in no particular order, left calculators with inconsistent numbers on them, and prepared a cup of tea that I would pretend to forget repeatedly. Bethany arrived, again accompanied by Monica, both with somber expressions that contrasted sharply with the greedy optimism they had shown the week before. "Dad, we need to talk seriously about your financial situation," Bethany began without preamble, her tone laden with urgency and feigned concern. "My financial situation? I thought you said everything was under control." Monica intervened with her characteristic manipulative authority. "Mr. Miller, after a detailed analysis of your accounts, we've discovered that your net worth has suffered devastating losses. Your available assets are minimal." "I don't understand what that means exactly," I replied, feigning senile confusion. Bethany spread the fake bank documents that I myself had prepared across my desk, pointing to the insignificant balances with a dramatically worried expression. "Dad, your main accounts have less than $15,000 in total. The hotels have apparently been losing money for months, and your investments have completely collapsed." I feigned absolute shock at this information, putting my hands to my head with exaggerated gestures of despair. "How is that possible? I had millions of dollars. Where is all my money?" "That's exactly the question we need to answer," Monica declared gravely. "We suspect that during your post-heart attack recovery, you may have made some unwise financial decisions." The conversation continued for 2 hours, with both women taking turns explaining the supposed magnitude of my economic ruin. They described catastrophic scenarios where I had lost virtually my entire fortune due to irresponsible investments and poor management during my period of medical vulnerability. "Dad, the situation is critical," Bethany insisted. "If we don't act immediately, you could even lose this house. The documents indicate you have outstanding debts that could force the sale of your properties." Her performance was impressive. Bethany had truly developed a talent for emotional manipulation under Monica's tutelage. However, I had decades of superior experience in complex negotiations and recognized their psychological pressure tactics perfectly. "What can I do? I don't want to lose what little I have left," I moaned pathetically. Monica leaned toward me with a falsely compassionate expression. "Mr. Miller, Bethany and I have developed a recovery plan. We can transfer your remaining assets to more secure accounts and implement investment strategies to minimize future losses." "But we need to act quickly," Bethany added. "Every day we waste, your situation gets worse." Over the next half hour, they presented their financial rescue plan, which basically consisted of transferring the remaining funds from the fake accounts to new accounts that they would control completely. "Monica has contacts in Swiss banks that offer exclusive investment products for fortunes in crisis. We could protect your remaining assets and possibly recover some of the losses." I pretended to seriously consider their proposal, showing the desperate gratitude of a ruined old man toward the only people willing to help him. "Do you really think you can save some of my fortune?" "Dad, we'll do everything we can, but you need to trust us completely and follow our recommendations without question." That night, after they left, I went to my personal safe, where I kept the authentic documents of the Hope Miller Foundation. The deposit certificates for $2.9 million were perfectly secure, completely out of reach of Bethany and Monica's ambitions. The next day, as agreed, I accompanied both women to the bank offices to formalize the transfers of my supposed remaining assets to the new protected accounts they had prepared. The bank manager, previously instructed by Ivan, my lawyer, discreetly played along. He confirmed that the original accounts contained only the minimal balances shown in the falsified documents. "Mr. Miller, your accounts reflect the exact figures your daughter has reported. We will proceed with the transfers as instructed." Bethany and Monica exchanged satisfied glances, convinced they had successfully secured control of my remaining economic resources. Over the following days, I watched with amusement as both women worked feverishly to optimize the investments of the $15,000 they had rescued from my supposed bankruptcy. Monica contacted her dubious financial associates. Bethany researched risky investment opportunities, and both spent considerable time planning how to maximize the return on my fictitious wealth. On April 8th, 2 weeks after they began their financial administration, Bethany visited me with news that confirmed the second phase of my strategy. "Dad, I have to confess something important. Monica and I have been discussing your situation, and we believe you might be developing symptoms of early onset dementia." "Dementia? Why would you think that?" "Your recent financial decisions have been so irrational that they can only be explained by cognitive decline. Monica knows medical specialists who could evaluate you and confirm our suspicions." The audacity of her suggestion impressed me. After successfully manipulating my supposed financial crisis, They now intended to have me declared mentally incompetent to justify their total control over my personal decisions. Do you really think I'm losing my mind, dear? Dad, it's the only logical explanation for you having lost almost your entire fortune in such a short time. A man of your intelligence would never have made such destructive decisions if he were mentally sound. That night, reflecting on the evolution of their master plan, I realized that Bethany and Monica had surpassed even my most pessimistic expectations of their calculated wickedness. They not only intended to steal my wealth, but also to destroy my personal dignity by having me declared legally incompetent. The time for my final revelation was fast approaching. Very soon, both women would discover they had been chasing financial ghosts, while my true fortune remained completely protected and inaccessible to their criminal ambitions. On April 15th, I decided the time was perfect to collect the definitive evidence I needed before executing my final revelation. Over the past weeks, Bethany and Monica had repeatedly shown their true intentions, but I needed irrefutable proof of their private conversations about my supposed mental incapacity and their plans for my estate. I contacted Vincent Morris, my trusted private investigator, again to implement the most delicate phase of my strategy. Vincent, I need you to discreetly install recording equipment in my study and living room. Bethany and Monica will be visiting this weekend, and I need to fully document their conversations when they think I can't hear them. Edward, I completely understand the need to protect yourself legally. The devices will be completely undetectable and will provide judicial quality recordings. On Saturday, April 17th, after Vincent professionally installed the surveillance equipment, I called Bethany to invite her and Monica for lunch. Dear, I've been feeling very lonely lately. Could you two keep me company on Sunday? Maria will make pot roast, just like when you were a little girl. Of course, Dad. Monica is free tomorrow, too. We'll be there at 2 p.m. That night, I carefully prepared my most convincing performance to date. I needed both women to feel completely confident in my mental decline so they would speak openly about their real plans. On Sunday, they arrived promptly, finding me seemingly confused and disoriented in my study. I had arranged several medicine bottles on the desk and prepared incoherent notes to suggest severe memory problems. Dad, how are you feeling today? Bethany asked with false maternal concern. I'm confused, dear. I can't remember if I took my medicine this morning. And last night, I dreamed your mother was here, talking to me about the hotels. It was so real I searched the whole house for her. Monica watched my gestures and expressions attentively, professionally assessing the degree of my supposed dementia. Mr. Miller, these temporary episodes of confusion are characteristic of progressive cognitive decline. Have you had other similar symptoms? Yes, constantly. Yesterday I called Ivan, my lawyer, 3 times asking about documents we had already discussed. He seemed worried by my repetitive insistence. During lunch, I deliberately intensified my displays of mental confusion. I repeated stories multiple times, mixed up important dates, and showed difficulty following basic conversations. This pot roast is delicious, I commented. Hope always made it exactly like this for family celebrations. Mom died 8 years ago. Maria made lunch today. Bethany corrected me with exaggerated patience. Maria? Who's Maria? Why is a stranger cooking in my house? I feigned growing agitation until Monica suggested I go rest while they finished lunch and cleaned the kitchen. Mr. Miller, you must be exhausted. Why don't you rest in your room while we take care of everything out here? Thank you. You're both very kind. I think a nap would help clear my head. I retreated to my bedroom, but stayed near the partially open door to overhear their conversation, knowing Vincent's devices were capturing every word with perfect clarity. For the next hour, Bethany and Monica extensively discussed my supposed mental condition and its implications for their personal enrichment plans. Monica, he's getting worse every day. This morning he called me at 6 asking if it was Tuesday or Thursday. I think he's really developing severe senile dementia. Bethany, this could be an excellent opportunity for us. If we can get a doctor to officially certify his mental incapacity, you can obtain full legal guardianship over his financial decisions. But won't the doctor suspect we're exaggerating his symptoms? I have contacts at private geriatric clinics. I know psychiatrists who can diagnose dementia based on family testimony, especially when there's evidence of irrational financial decisions like the losses he has supposedly suffered. The conversation went on to reveal specific details of their strategy to have me declared legally incompetent. Monica had researched legal procedures and knew lawyers specializing in forced guardianship cases for seniors with considerable assets. Once you have full legal control, we can access any bank account or property he might have hidden. Demented old people often hide money in places they completely forget. Do you really think he has more money than we've found? The accounts I'm managing barely total $15,000. Bethany, a man who built 7 hotels, can't have lost literally millions of dollars in a few months. He must have hidden assets somewhere, maybe accounts in other banks, international investments, or even cash physically stored in the house. Their speculation about my hidden wealth was ironically accurate, though they could never imagine the legal sophistication of the structure I had implemented to protect my assets. Monica, how long would the legal guardianship process take? If we present convincing medical documentation and evidence of financial decline, we could obtain temporary guardianship in 6 weeks. After that, you'd have full access to everything he owns. Perfect. In the meantime, we'll keep pretending we're concerned about his well-being. It's important to maintain the facade of devoted daughters until we have absolute legal control. After 2 hours of revealing conversation, I returned to the living room, pretending to have woken up from my nap. Where am I? Why are there strangers in my house? I asked with genuine theatrical alarm. Dad, it's me, Bethany, your daughter. This is Monica, my friend. We've been having lunch with you. Bethany. My Bethany is a little girl. You're too old to be my daughter. Both women exchanged significant looks, clearly convinced my dementia had progressed to a level that would justify immediate medical intervention. Mr. Miller, I think we should schedule a consultation with a geriatric specialist. These episodes of disorientation are concerning, Monica suggested with feigned authority. A doctor? Why do I need a doctor? I feel perfectly fine. Dad, you have memory problems. A doctor could help you with medication to improve your mental clarity. That evening, after they left, I listened to the complete recordings Vincent had captured. The evidence was devastating, legally irrefutable. Both women had explicitly confessed their intentions to manipulate the judicial system to have me declared mentally incompetent and steal my assets. The recordings documented conspiracy, attempted fraud, elder abuse, and multiple other serious offenses. I had enough material to completely destroy their lives if I chose to press criminal charges, but my revenge would be much more elegant and devastating than simple legal proceedings. The next Monday, I would contact Ivan to prepare the revelation that would destroy their dreams of illicit enrichment in the most humiliating and definitive way possible. Bethany had proven that her cruelty during my heart attack was not a moment of weakness, but the genuine manifestation of her corrupt nature. Now she would discover the consequences of underestimating her father's intelligence and resources. Monday, April 18th, dawned with clear skies over Chicago, as if the universe had decided to provide the perfect backdrop for my final revelation. After 6 weeks of masterful performance, the time had come to show my true cards and watch the castle of lies that Bethany and Monica had built on my supposed vulnerability come crashing down. At 10 a.m., I called Bethany, my voice deliberately clear and firm, completely different from the confused, senile tone I had adopted for the past few weeks. Bethany, I need to see you at my house this afternoon at 5 o'clock sharp. Come alone, without Monica. We have important matters to resolve definitively. Dad, are you all right? Your voice sounds different today. I've never felt better in my life, dear. I'll expect you on time. Over the next few hours, I meticulously prepared my study for the final encounter. In the center of the desk, I arranged Vincent's audio recordings, the authentic documents of the Hope Miller Foundation, the real statements from my offshore accounts, and the complete investigation report on Monica's fraudulent activities. At the same time, I contacted Ivan, my lawyer, to be at my home at 5:30, 30 minutes after my confrontation with Bethany began. Ivan, this charade ends today. I need you to bring all the legal documents related to the estate restructuring. Bethany will learn the full truth about the consequences. Edward, I've prepared a folder with all the official foundation documentation, the asset transfer certificates, and the will amendments. Are you absolutely sure you want to proceed with the full disclosure? Absolutely. My daughter showed her true nature during my most vulnerable moment. Now she will face the repercussions of her calculated betrayal. Bethany arrived at exactly 5, visibly nervous about the radical change in my tone on the phone that morning. Upon entering the study, her expression changed immediately as she observed my upright posture, my piercing gaze, and the complete absence of the symptoms of confusion I had exhibited for weeks. Dad, you look very different. Did you change your medication? You seem completely lucid. Sit down, Bethany. It's time for you to have an honest conversation with your father. I picked up the audio player Vincent had prepared and played the most incriminating recording of her conversation with Monica from the previous Sunday. Monica's voice filled the room with perfect clarity. Once you have full legal control, we can access any bank account or property he might have hidden. Demented old people often hide money in places they completely forget, followed immediately by Bethany's response. In the meantime, we'll keep pretending we're concerned about his well-being. It's important to maintain the facade of devoted daughters until we have absolute legal control. The color drained completely from my daughter's face. Her hands began to tremble as she processed the devastating reality that she had been caught red-handed in her betrayal. Dad, that conversation. I can explain? Explain what exactly, Bethany? Explain how you plan to have me declared mentally incompetent to steal my assets? Or explain how you faked maternal concern while conspiring with a professional scammer? I then played the second most damning recording, where Monica detailed her explicit strategy to obtain forced legal guardianship through fraudulent medical testimony. Bethany, for 6 weeks I have played the part of a vulnerable old man, while you and your mentor developed criminal plans to destroy my autonomy and steal my fortune. Every symptom of dementia, every episode of confusion, every sign of mental decline was a carefully calculated performance. My daughter tried to regain her composure, but her cracking voice revealed the absolute shock of having been completely outmaneuvered. Dad, Monica convinced me that you were really losing your mental faculties. I thought I was protecting you from irrational financial decisions. Protecting me? You call planning to have me legally declared incompetent protection? Conspiring to control my assets against my will? I then took the folder containing the documents for the Hope Miller Foundation and placed it in front of her on the desk. Bethany, while you were wasting your time managing fictitious accounts with $15,000, I was completely restructuring my real estate. These documents confirm that all my assets, worth $2.9 million, have been legally transferred to a charitable foundation of which I am the president with absolute powers. Her eyes widened in horror as she gradually understood the magnitude of her miscalculation. What does that mean exactly? It means, dear daughter, that you will not inherit a single dollar of my fortune. It means that you will have to pay off your $62,000 in debt with your own resources. It means that your plans for enrichment, through my supposed incapacity, have resulted in your absolute impoverishment. Bethany shot up from her chair, pacing nervously around the study as she processed the devastating implications of my revelation. Dad, this has to be a cruel joke. You can't have done something so drastic based on misunderstandings. Misunderstandings? I have 2 hours of recordings where you explicitly confess your criminal intentions. I have documentary evidence of your plans to have me declared insane. There are no possible misunderstandings. Just then, Ivan rang the doorbell, right on schedule. Seeing him enter with his briefcase of legal documents, Bethany understood that the situation was irrevocably final. Mrs. Miller, Ivan greeted her formally. I have brought all the documentation confirming the estate modifications implemented by your father. If you would like to review it, you will find that all procedures have been executed with absolute legality. For the next hour, Ivan explained in detail every aspect of the legal restructuring: the hotels, the properties, the investments, the bank accounts. Everything had been irrevocably transferred to the charitable foundation, leaving Bethany completely excluded from any future inheritance. Additionally, Ivan continued, your father has completely revoked his previous will and has named the foundation as the sole beneficiary of any remaining personal assets. Bethany collapsed back into the chair, tears of desperation beginning to well up in her eyes. Dad, please, I made terrible mistakes, but I'm your daughter. You can't destroy our family relationship because of Monica. She manipulated me. She convinced me of horrible things. Bethany, when I had my heart attack and begged you for help, you called me a dramatic old liar. You chose your television show over your father's life. That cruelty was not Monica's influence. That was your true nature, revealing itself at the most critical moment. Her sobs intensified as she remembered the night that had irreversibly triggered this chain of devastating consequences. I've been a terrible daughter, Dad, but I promise I can change. Give me a chance to show you that you still matter to me beyond the money. Bethany, for 8 months I watched you transform into a cruel, greedy stranger. Your behavior during my heart attack definitively confirmed that I only represented financial value to you. That reality cannot be reversed with belated tears. By the end of the afternoon, after Ivan had left and Bethany fully understood the irreversibility of my decision, We were left alone, facing the abyss that had definitively opened between us. What will become of me now, Dad? That depends entirely on you, dear. You will have to face the consequences of your decisions and build your life without relying on the fortune you expected to automatically inherit. The 3 months following my revelation passed like a clinical observation of a fascinating social experiment. From my privileged perspective, I could watch as the world Bethany had built on a foundation of greed and inherited expectations systematically crumbled. The first consequence manifested just a week after our final confrontation. Robert, her husband, had based many of their family financial decisions on the certainty that they would eventually access my considerable estate. When Bethany confessed the devastating reality of the situation, his reaction surpassed even my most pessimistic expectations. "How could you be so stupid?" he yelled during an argument I could hear clearly from my garden during my evening walks. "We had access to almost $3 million, and you lost it all by following that demonic lunatic." The marital fights became daily and increasingly vicious. Robert blamed Bethany exclusively for the loss of what he considered their family inheritance, while she tried to explain how she had been manipulated by someone she blindly trusted. "Robert, I thought I was protecting Dad from irrational decisions. Monica convinced me he was losing his mental faculties. Monica, Monica, Monica. It's always someone else's fault. You made the final decisions. You ruined our financial future by following a scammer." During May, the financial tensions intensified dramatically. Bethany's accumulated debts, which she had hoped to pay off with my inheritance, began to create unsustainable pressure from the banks. The monthly interest payments exceeded her available income, creating an unstoppable downward spiral. Vincent, my private investigator, provided me with regular reports on the deteriorating family economic situation. The data was revealing. They had started selling personal possessions to cover minimum credit card payments, and Robert had taken out additional loans using his car as collateral. "Edward, your daughter's financial situation is worsening weekly. She has sold jewelry, valuable furniture, and they are considering remortgaging their home." At the same time, Monica Pierce had completely disappeared from their lives after discovering that her enrichment strategy had failed spectacularly. Like a typical financial predator, she abandoned Bethany immediately when she realized she could extract no economic benefit from our family relationship. But the most devastating consequence for Bethany was the impact on her teenage children, my grandchildren Adrian and Nora. The two, aged 18 and 16 respectively, began to question the conflicting versions they received about the family rift. Adrian, the older, visited me one afternoon in June without his parents' knowledge. "Grandpa, I need to understand what really happened between you and Mom. She tells us you developed dementia and made irrational decisions, but I see you completely lucid and healthy." The conversation with my grandson was one of the most painful but necessary of my life. Without revealing specific details of his mother's betrayals, I explained that we had had irreconcilable differences over fundamental family values. "Adrian, your mother chose to follow the advice of people who did not have her best interests at heart. When I needed her support the most, she failed me in ways I cannot forgive. Does it have to do with when you had the heart attack?" Mom never really explained what happened that night. My grandson was intelligent and perceptive. He had noticed inconsistencies in the family stories and was seeking direct answers. "Adrian, your mother made choices that revealed her true character. As a consequence, I decided to completely restructure my priorities and my estate. Over the following weeks, both Adrian and Nora began to visit my house regularly, seeking to maintain a relationship with me regardless of the conflict with their parents. Their visits brought me immense emotional satisfaction, confirming that genuine love transcends financial manipulation. "Grandpa, Dad says you're selfish for not helping Mom with her money problems," Nora commented during one of her visits. "Nora, your mother created her own financial problems with irresponsible decisions. Adults must face the consequences of their actions without expecting others to solve their self-inflicted difficulties." My grandchildren gradually understood that the official family version of my supposed dementia and irrationality did not match the reality they observed firsthand. Their mother had lost credibility with her own children by maintaining contradictory and implausible narratives. In July, Bethany's marital situation reached a definitive breaking point. Robert, facing economic pressures that exceeded his tolerance, filed for legal separation. "I can't continue living with someone whose stupidity ruined our economic future," he declared during a phone conversation that Vincent legally intercepted. The separation process publicly revealed the family's financial difficulties, exposing Bethany to her social circle as directly responsible for the marital economic collapse. During August, I watched as my daughter desperately tried to rebuild her shattered life. She had lost her manipulative mentor, her marriage was disintegrating, her children questioned her credibility, and she faced imminent personal bankruptcy. Her attempts at reconciliation with me became more frequent and pathetic. Pleading phone calls, handwritten letters begging for forgiveness, even unannounced visits where she would cry at my door, asking for a second chance. Dad, I've learned my lesson. Monica completely deceived me, but now I understand my mistakes. Give me the opportunity to be the daughter you deserve. However, each plea confirmed that her remorse was motivated exclusively by financial desperation, not by genuine recognition of the emotional harm she had caused me. Bethany, if you had truly learned anything, you would never have suggested we fake maternal concern while you planned to have me declared mentally incompetent. Her tears and late protests of filial love could not erase the recordings where she explicitly confessed her criminal intentions, nor the indelible memory of her cruelty during my heart attack. The testing phase was definitively over. Bethany had failed every character test I had presented her, repeatedly demonstrating that her primary interest was economic, not emotional. As I watched the sunset from my terrace in September, I reflected on the poetic justice of the situation. My daughter had lost exactly what she valued most: access to money she had never earned. Simultaneously, I had regained what was most important: the respect and genuine love of my grandchildren, who now understood the difference between authentic affection and self-serving manipulation. The transformation was complete. Bethany was facing the natural consequences of her treacherous decisions, while I enjoyed the peace of having protected my dignity and my assets from family predators. October brought the implementation of my most strategic and definitive decision. After months of observing the progressive collapse of the life Bethany had built on inherited expectations, it was time to execute the final play that would permanently cement the lessons of this devastating experience. In recent weeks, I had thought deeply about the future of my grandchildren. Adrian and Nora had demonstrated authentic values and solid moral judgment by maintaining a relationship with me despite family pressures. Their genuine loyalty deserved concrete recognition. On the 1st of October, I contacted Ivan to develop an additional modification to the structure of the Hope Miller Foundation. Ivan, I want to establish a specific educational fund within the foundation, exclusively for financing the university education and professional development of Adrian and Nora. Excellent initiative, Edward. What specific parameters do you wish to set for this educational fund? The fund will fully cover their university studies, postgraduate degrees, and any professional training they choose to pursue. However, access will be conditional on maintaining a respectful and regular relationship with me and demonstrating solid ethical values in their personal decisions. The legal structure we designed was sophisticated but clear. The funds would be immediately available for educational expenses, but any additional benefits would require an annual evaluation of their moral character and genuine family commitment. Also, Ivan, I want to include a specific clause. If either of them attempts to manipulate me or repeat their mother's patterns of behavior, they will automatically and irrevocably lose access to all benefits of the fund. I understand perfectly. This clause will protect both your interests and those of your grandchildren by setting clear expectations for ethical behavior. On October 5th, I invited Adrian and Nora to lunch at my home to personally communicate this decision. I wanted them to understand both the opportunities being offered and the responsibilities they entailed. Grandpa, Mom told us we shouldn't visit you anymore because you're manipulating our emotions to get revenge on her, Nora told me as soon as they arrived. And what do you two think about that suggestion? We think Mom is wrong, Adrian replied firmly. You've never asked for anything in return for spending time with you. We simply enjoy your company and our conversations. Their answers confirmed that they had developed independent judgment and could distinguish between genuine affection and self-serving manipulation. During lunch, I explained in detail the educational fund I had established for them. I have created a program that will fully fund your university education, no matter what careers you choose or where you decide to study. It also includes funds for postgraduate degrees, master's programs, or any professional specialization you wish to pursue. Both youngsters listened with genuine attention and surprise, clearly not expecting such generosity after the recent family conflicts. Grandpa, that's incredibly generous, but we don't want you to think we're staying in touch for financial benefits. Nora declared, with impressive maturity for her age. It is precisely because of that attitude that you have proven you deserve these opportunities. Your mother lost my trust because she only valued me as a financial source. You have proven that you appreciate me regardless of economic considerations. I also explained the conditions of the fund. Maintain a regular and respectful relationship with me. Demonstrate moral integrity in their decisions, and never attempt to manipulate me emotionally or financially. These conditions are not restrictions, but protections. I want to ensure that you always maintain the authentic values you have shown you possess. Adrian, a business administration student, immediately understood the strategic implications of my decision. Grandpa, this means that Mom not only lost her inheritance, but she also lost influence over our future educational and professional decisions. Exactly. Your mother hoped to control you through economic dependence. Now you have complete autonomy to choose your own paths without family pressure. Over the following weeks, I watched as this new reality transformed the family dynamics in a fascinating way. Bethany initially tried to forbid her children from accepting my educational support, but they flatly refused. Mom, Grandpa is offering us educational opportunities that you can't provide because of your financial problems, Nora explained during an argument that Vincent discreetly documented. He's buying your loyalty. He's manipulating you to get revenge on me. Mom, Grandpa has never asked us to take his side against you. He's simply offering us educational support with no strings attached related to you. Bethany's frustration intensified as she realized she had lost even the ability to influence her own children's decisions. Her maternal authority had evaporated, along with her financial credibility. Robert, in the process of finalizing the separation, fully supported his children's decision to accept my educational support. At least someone in this family made smart decisions, he commented sarcastically during a legally intercepted phone call. By November, Bethany's situation had deteriorated to a critical level. She faced foreclosure proceedings for unpaid debts, a contentious divorce, and progressive social isolation. Her former friends from her affluent social circle avoided her, aware of her financial collapse and the embarrassing circumstances of her marital separation. Her desperate attempts at reconciliation with me became more dramatic and frequent. She would show up at my door at inappropriate hours, send handwritten letters full of promises of change, and even try to use significant family dates to awaken my compassion. Dad, tomorrow is the anniversary of Mom's death. Couldn't we honor her memory by reconciling as the family she would have wanted us to be? Bethany, your mother would have never approved of you denying medical help to your father during a heart attack. Do not invoke her memory to justify behavior that she would have found despicable. Her pleas revealed a superficial understanding of her fundamental errors. She remained focused on obtaining forgiveness to restore her economic access, without demonstrating true remorse for the emotional damage she had caused me. During December, I implemented the final phase of my educational strategy with my grandchildren. I enrolled them in a summer business leadership program in London, fully funded by the Foundation, where they could develop professional skills and an international perspective. Grandpa, this program is an incredible opportunity. Thank you so much for believing in our potential. Adrian thanked me before leaving. Remember that opportunities must be earned through effort and character. I hope you take advantage of every experience to grow as professionals and as people. At the end of the year, I looked back with satisfaction at the results of my comprehensive strategy. Bethany had lost everything she prioritized over authentic family affection: money, social status, family influence, and economic security. Simultaneously, my grandchildren had gained extraordinary educational opportunities and financial autonomy that would allow them to build their lives independently of their mother's destructive decisions. Justice had been served in the most elegant way possible, through natural consequences arising directly from the moral decisions of each person involved. 6 months have passed since that devastating revelation on April 18th, and as I write these lines in my study, looking out at the garden that my late hope cultivated with so much love, I can affirm that justice has run its natural course in the most perfect way I could have imagined. My new life proceeds with a tranquility I haven't experienced in years. I have sold the family home, too large and filled with painful memories of Bethany's betrayal, and moved into a stylish apartment in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. It is a more suitable space for a man of my age, with all the modern comforts, yet maintaining the distinction appropriate for someone of my standing. The Hope Miller Foundation operates successfully under my presidency, generating constant profits that are directed to carefully selected charitable causes. I have found immense personal satisfaction in leading educational programs for young people from low-income backgrounds. offering them the opportunities my own grandchildren now enjoy, thanks to my strategic planning. Adrian returned from London transformed by his international experience. The business leadership program provided him with valuable professional connections and a global perspective that will be crucial for his future career. He is currently in his final year of administration at Northwestern University, with excellent grades and multiple internship offers from prestigious companies. Grandpa, the London program taught me that true success is built on solid ethical principles, not on inherited expectations, he told me during our monthly dinner at a steakhouse downtown. Nora, for her part, has developed a passionate interest in international law, inspired partly by observing the legal proceedings surrounding our family situation. Her grades at school are outstanding, and she has already been shortlisted for several prestigious university programs. Grandpa, I want to specialize in estate and inheritance law. Seeing how you legally protected your interests inspired me to understand these mechanisms from a professional perspective. Both young people maintain minimal but cordial contact with their mother, visiting her occasionally out of moral obligation, but without allowing her difficulties to affect their own upward trajectories. They have learned the most valuable lesson I could have taught them. Personal character determines individual destiny, regardless of family circumstances. Bethany, on the contrary, continues to face the natural consequences of her treacherous decisions. Her divorce was finalized in September on unfavorable terms, as Robert managed to prove that the accumulated debts resulted from her unilateral and irresponsible decisions. She lost shared custody of the children, who chose to live with their father due to the economic and emotional instability she represented. Her financial situation deteriorated to the point of requiring a declaration of personal bankruptcy. Foreclosures executed by banking institutions forced her to sell virtually all of her valuable possessions. She currently resides in a modest apartment on the outskirts of Chicago, working in an insurance office for a basic salary. Monica Pierce, the intellectual architect of this family tragedy, faced legal consequences for her fraudulent activities. The evidence Vincent collected during his investigation was discreetly provided to the competent authorities. She is currently serving an 18-month prison sentence for aggravated fraud and manipulation of vulnerable seniors. The last time I saw Bethany was on my 73rd birthday, January 15th of this year. She appeared at my new apartment uninvited, looking haggard and wearing clothes that revealed her reduced economic circumstances. Dad, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but it's your birthday, and I wanted to wish you a happy birthday in person. Her presence awakened neither anger nor compassion in me, but a serene indifference that surprised me with its completeness. Bethany, I appreciate the gesture, but I think we both understand that our relationship definitively ended that night you refused to help me during my heart attack. Dad, I've reflected on my mistakes all these months. I lost everything, my marriage, my financial stability, the trust of my children. Isn't that punishment enough? It's not about punishment, dear. It's about natural consequences. You chose to prioritize a television show over your father's life. You chose to conspire with a scammer to have me declared mentally incompetent. You chose to betray decades of trust for short-term greed. Her tears did not move me. For 8 months, I had watched her transform into a person capable of calculated cruelty toward her own father. Belated tears could not erase that fundamental transformation of her character. Can you never forgive me? Forgiveness is irrelevant, Bethany. Trust, once broken by deliberate betrayal, cannot be restored. We have learned who we really are during this crisis, and that information determines how we will proceed in the future. She left that afternoon, finally understanding that there would be no possible reconciliation. Not because I was vengeful or resentful, but because circumstances had revealed fundamental incompatibilities of values that admitted no resolution. During these months of reflection, I have come to understand that this painful experience was also profoundly liberating. For years, I maintained a family relationship based on one-sided affection and unreciprocated expectations. The heart attack crisis revealed the reality. My daughter valued me exclusively as an economic source, not as a person deserving of unconditional love. Now, I live surrounded only by authentic relationships. My grandchildren visit me because they genuinely enjoy my company, not out of obligation or financial interest. The beneficiaries of my foundation respect me for my philanthropic contributions, not for inherited expectations. My close friends appreciate my friendship for our shared values, not for my net worth. This purification of my social circle has resulted in a peace and personal satisfaction I had not experienced in decades. I have learned that chosen solitude is infinitely preferable to self-serving company. At 73, with my heart health stabilized and my financial future perfectly secure, I can affirm that the decisions I made during this crisis were the right ones. I protected my dignity, safeguarded my assets from family predators, and ensured that my values are passed on to future generations through my grandchildren. Bethany had multiple opportunities to choose authentic filial love over manipulative greed. At every critical juncture, she chose the path of calculated betrayal. The consequences she faces are not the product of my revenge, but the natural result of her own moral decisions. The most important lesson that emerges from this experience is simple but fundamental. True character is revealed during crises, and that revelation must determine how we structure our future relationships. Genuine family love transcends economic considerations. But when money becomes the primary motivation, the relationship transforms into something completely different that does not deserve the name of love. Today, as I watch the sunset from my terrace, I feel a deep peace knowing that I will live my remaining years surrounded only by authentic affection and genuine respect. My daughter chose her path, and I chose mine. We both must live with the consequences of our decisions, but only one of us can sleep soundly each night, knowing he acted with unwavering moral integrity. If you liked this story, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box on the left. Thanks for watching.